A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, our dear distinguished guests, members of the bar and the bench, our friends from the media, the civil society organizations, academia, and everyone joining us online and here and physically present at the Uganda Law Society. We would like to welcome you all to the 43rd edition of the Radical New Bar live weekly hybrid press and public engagement this 13th day of November 2025. We would like to thank the Lord for thus far that we have come, and would like to thank you as well for making the time as we are. This platform, the Radical New Bar Live, continues to be our open, fearless space for dialogue where lawyers, journalists, and policymakers, as well as citizens, come together to interrogate very tough questions about the law, governance, and justice in Uganda. I am by the name Robert Benon Jurua. I am a legal officer in the Rule of Law Department in charge of litigation. It is my singular honor to welcome you to this audacious place for us to interrogate the questions that are going to follow hereafter. I would like to thank you once again. Our program is going to be as follows. We are going to have an opening prayer from within the house, and thereafter we shall have our welcome remarks from the Chief Executive Officer of the Uganda Law Society, and thereafter we shall have the Vice President's message that will be read out for him, and thereafter we shall delve into our topics that will be as follows. We shall have the first topic that reads, where is electoral justice? The Mbarara NUP campaign suppression. And therein we shall hear from distinguished guests, including Mr. Lewis Rubongoya, the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform. We shall be hearing from Mr. Moses Nuwagaba, who is a social justice activist. And thereafter, we shall be hearing from Dr. Sarah Birete, the ED of Center for Constitutional Governance. Thereafter, we shall be moving into the second topic that is titled Judicial Accountability, and particularly the Geoffrey Kazinda case. And we shall be hearing from the family of Mr. Geoffrey Kazinda, that will also, after that, be represented by an advocate from Omongole and Company Advocates. And thereafter, we shall be hearing from of a topic, TechFest, introducing legal tech dialogues. We shall be hearing particularly from our perpendicular chairperson of the TechFest that was held at Munyonyo around 3 months ago, one Mr. Tony Kire Galandi, who is the founder of Legal Tech Dialogues. And thereafter, we shall be having a session for question and answer to get feedback from each other, as well as a vote of thanks and closing remarks. Once again, it is my honor to have you here, and we bring kind regards from the council, the governing council of the Uganda Law Society, especially the president, who sends his regards. We want to begin the topic with an opening prayer that is going to come from one of us, Miss Lorraine Aguti, who is going to usher us into the day so as to get into the agenda items. Thank you so much once again. Miss Lorraine.
Good morning. Let's humble ourselves for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for everyone who has made it today. And Lord, we thank you for the Radical New Bar. Lord, we pray that the engagements that we shall have today and the discussions that will be had will yield fruit in as far as rule of law is concerned in this country. We dedicate this day and this event into your hands. In Jesus' name we have prayed.
Thank you so much for that prayer. We bless the name of the Lord for thus far that we have come. We are going to straight away delve into listening into the remarks from the Chief Executive Officer, Miss Christine Awori, who is indisposed and has delegated the role for her message to be read out by Miss Gwenny Patience, who is a research officer, a legal officer in charge of research in the Rule of Law Department. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jurua. Good morning, everyone. These are remarks by the CEO, who is not able to be with us this morning. Our distinguished guests, Dr. Sarah Birete, Mr. David Louis Rubongoya, Mr. Moses Nwagaba, Mr. Tony Galandi, the family of Mr. Geoffrey Kazinda, council members joining us online, members of the ULS present physically and online, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am honored to welcome you to this 43rd edition of the Rnblive. As a Uganda Law Society, our mandate is to uphold the rule of law, defend human rights, and preserve democratic space. Today's program brings together 3 critical topics that speak to these values. Number 1 is, where is electoral justice? The Mbarara NUP campaign suppression. Over the past week, there have been multiple reports of incidents in Mbarara where members and supporters of the NUP were arrested and detained. These actions raise immediate and serious questions about the protection of citizens' constitutional rights to peaceful assembly, freedom of association, and political participation. We are joined by political analysts and social justice activists to break down what happened and what is the way forward for Uganda as we draw towards the 2026 general elections. Number 2 is on judicial accountability, the case of Geoffrey Kazinda. Today we have in the house the family of Geoffrey Kazinda as well as his legal counsel. The Kazinda matter has spanned over 13 years, been to multiple courts, and the appeal is pending judgment at the Supreme Court. As ULS, we strongly believe in the judiciary's obligation to dispose of cases in a timely manner. We will listen from his family and his lawyers to understand their experience, as well as to stand with them as we call for judicial accountability and timely dispose of cases. Lastly, is in regards to our RNB Digital Transformation Festival that took place on the 13th and 14th of August this year, where we showcased how technology can modernize legal practice, expand access to justice, and make institutions more efficient. We will be joined by the inaugural chairperson of the TechFest committee, who will introduce to us his new innovation, the Legal Tech Dialogues. Once again, allow me to thank our membership and the general public for constantly joining us every week. And I remind us all that the rule of law is not an abstract ideal. It's a daily practice that requires vigilance from lawyers, civil society, institutions, and all citizens. ULS is committed and will continue to stand for fairness, accountability, and the respect of human rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gwenny. We would like to thank you, Madam CEO, for your very warm remarks and also the remarks that you've given us in order to begin the day with the topics that have been read unto us, which are very thought-provoking. And of course, in this moment of time, when we are in a very critical moment of our lives, especially in Uganda, the election period. This is not a period to be taken for granted. We know what has been transpiring over the years. There's been a number of elections that have been conducted, especially national elections, presidential elections, and all else. And it has not been a walk through the park. Today, we would like to begin our day from Mbarara. Mbarara, in places that, of course, have witnessed the NUP campaign activities that have raised questions about the freedom to assemble, the fairness of political competition, and the protection of the civil space. Like we said, we are a platform that is fearless and here to speak. We're trying as much as possible to bring knowledge and civic education to the masses, and that is the mandate that is given unto us in the Uganda Law Society Act under Section 3C and D. And ladies and gentlemen, this has not been the first time. There has been opportunity before this on a number of occasions. We have, while hosting different stakeholders, political parties, had a moment to sign and have documents written out and declarations in as far as upholding rule of law is concerned, as well as what, of course, we know as being very, very very reliant on the Constitution. We have with us over here a declaration of the Alliance Against Electoral Violence. We have this document signed on the 21st day of March 2025. For your information, we are setting a ground for the first topic, and of course we needed to bring up to speed what has been transpiring before that. And on this day of 21st March 2025, we had the Honorable Mr. Chairman Mao, who is the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, alongside various other political activists as well as government department representatives. We had SSP Donald Muhwezi representing the Uganda Police Force. We had Dr. Nahabwe Innocent representing he's the chairperson of the National Association of Broadcasters Uganda. We had Dr. Sarah Birete, who is also with us in the house. She's going to join us online and share her remarks. She is the Executive Director for Center for Constitutional Governance. And we had Mr. Robert Sempala, the Executive Director, Human Rights Network for Journalists, as well as Mr. Pius Katunzi, the Managing Director for the Observer member, Uganda Editors Guild. On the other occasion, which was the 3rd day of July, we signed another declaration. That is the Uganda Law Society, We signed another declaration against electoral violence. And we had with us in the building, and very key in this signature session, was Major General retired Mugisha Muntu, who is the president of the Alliance for National Transformation. We had Miss Pauline Nansamba Mutumba, the Uganda Human Rights Commission representative. We had Paul Kiria Mukalere, who represented African Center for Rehabilitation of Torture Victims. Of course, we had the Vice President who was representing the Uganda Law Society, Mr. Anthony Asimwe. And thereafter, the last one, which we are still continuing to use as a foundation, we had another declaration for Alliance Against Electoral Violence and a call for free, fair, and transparent elections, signed in representation of the National Unity Platform. We had the principal himself, Honorable Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, who is the president of the NUP party. We had the vice president, or the deputy president, that is Miss Lina Zedriga. We had Mr. David Lewis Rubongoya, who is the Secretary General, and we are privileged to have him here with us. And we also had Mr. Benjamin Katana, who is the treasurer, and Mr. Honorable Joseph Sewungu, the MP for Kalungu County West, as well as the representative of the Uganda Law Society, Eastern representative, that was Eddie Nangulu. Ladies and gentlemen, allow us give you a recap of the most recent statement that Uganda Law Society wrote out in regard to the most recent ruckus and suppression of elections and electoral activities by the Uganda Law Society. I am going to kindly read it out for members so as to get up to speed in as far as what the Uganda Law Society stands for, and then usher in the members and distinguished guests who are going to help us to delve into that topic. The statement was reading, Statement on the Arrest and Disappearance of NUP Supporters in Mbarara, Kampala, Uganda, on the 8th day of November 2025. The Uganda Law Society has today received a distressing report from the National Unity Platform, NUP, concerning the alleged mistreatment of its supporters and accompanying journalists during the 2025-2026 general election campaign in Mbarara. unspecified number of NUP supporters and several journalists were reportedly arrested and detained yesterday. That was the day that we wrote, while en route to a scheduled rally in Biziwera Town Council. Their current whereabouts remain unaccounted for. Credible and verified media reports have corroborated the NUP report. They depict a heavy security presence employing what appears to be unreasonable force in a coordinated attempt to interfere with the NUP campaign convoy as it traveled through the greater Mbarara area. The ULS has noted a police media statement released yesterday which suggests that the scenes were part of an operation to identify and apprehend individuals suspected of offenses committed during earlier NUP presidential campaign events. This explanation unconvincing. The society queries why the authorities did not instead issue summons under Section 27A of the Police Act to require the attendance of any persons of interest or publish their images and particulars for public identification. Why resort to obstruction, intimidation, and the alleged forcible disappearance of peace-loving supporters of the political party engaged in a legitimate electoral activity? Ugandans are once again witnessing the alleged use of excessive force, arbitrary arrests, disappearances, and intimidation of citizens during an electoral cycle. This trend must cease. In accordance with the Alliance for Combating Electoral Violence, a civil society declaration to which NUP acceded under the society's auspices on 15th July 2025, the ULS commits to pursuing all legal and advocacy avenues to secure accountability and protect citizens' rights. To this end, we urge volunteers from our membership to contact our litigation officer, Advocate Robert Benon Jurua, with the number 0782-969-239 to register their willingness to offer pro bono services to this noble cause. The ULS further demands that the authorities refrain from jeopardizing the liberty of any individual without reasonable suspicion of wrongdoing. The ULS continues to call upon the Inspector General of Police of the Uganda Police and other relevant authorities to, amongst others, account for the whereabouts of all individuals detained in connection with this incident, ensure that any investigation into alleged offenses is conducted in accordance with the law and with due respect for fundamental human rights, and finally, to refrain from employing tactics that undermine the democratic process. The ULS remains committed to upholding the law, the rule of law, and the protection of human rights. Signed by Mr. Asimwe Anthony, the Vice President of Uganda Law Society. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank you for keeping with us. That has been the foundation for the first topic that has been to us, and we are going to welcome a very, very astute lawyer and a very, very committed individual to the fight for rule of law. And it is in this regard that we introduce a Secretary General of the Uganda National Unity Platform since 2020, who is a lawyer by profession with a Bachelor's of Law degree from Makerere University and a Master's degree in International Law and Legal Studies from Oxford University. And in 2020, he was one of the key figures that launched the NUP, where he was appointed as the party's first Secretary General. Ladies and gentlemen, would like to request that with me we welcome Mr. David Lewis Lubongoya to speak to us into the topic as has been mentioned. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, distinguished panelists, all of you guests who are with us today, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you greetings from the National Unity Platform, President and the entire leadership of the party. I also want to extend our greetings and solidarity with the ULS President, President Isaac Semakade, who all of us know is not with us. Again, because of the breakdown of the rule of law in our country, we want to appreciate him and the entire leadership of Uganda Law Society for that statement that was put out, expressing solidarity with the National Unity Platform and what happened, but again, for consistently standing for the rule of law, which is a core mandate of the Uganda Law Society. I am going to just make a few remarks about what has been transpiring. As you all know, what is happening now in NUP is really not new. What is happening is what we saw in 2020, 2021, and even before then. We all know what happened in the previous elections. The only difference is that the levels of suppression, the levels of oppression, the levels of repression have only been increasing by the day. But this is what has been happening in elections. In elections, the regime does not, the Museveni regime does not view elections as elections per se, but as a military operation. No wonder in 2020, they deployed, military officers to take charge of different regions in this country, and of course not to ensure that there's a peaceful election, that there's a free and fair election, but to do a lot of suppression, to carry out all the atrocities that they committed. And so, looking back at the election in 2020, all of you guests here know that over 4,000 NUP supporters were abducted or violently arrested, taken into custody. Majority of them presented before military courts. And right now, as we speak, the Supreme Court clearly made a decision in January this year that trials of civilians in military courts should end, and that all files should be transferred. All files involving civilians should be transferred to civilian courts. You all know that that has not happened. We still have our comrades who are stuck at Chitalia, who are stuck at upper prison, sent there by military courts. Up to now, those individuals' files have not been transferred to civilian courts. And that really speaks to the breakdown of the rule of law. If the highest court in the land can make a decision and it is ignored with impunity by the powers that be, we say shame upon you. The DPP, it is your core mandate. The DPP is in contempt of court. All these months have passed without the DPP transferring these files to civilian courts so that these individuals can be tried, and if they have no case, they will be freed. How different is the military court system from the civilian court system? Do you want to tell us, DPP, and the entire state structure in Uganda, that there is no difference between the military courts, where we were, which we were choosing of not trying people, keeping people in detention without trial for all that period, and the civilian courts, which are really also folding their arms and not doing anything about these cases? So we say shame upon you for all these kinds of atrocities. We are still looking for 18 people who were abducted between 2019 and 2021. You saw a few days ago we buried Monica Nabukera, the wife to John Bosco Chibalama, who was disappeared on 3rd June 2019. Chibalama is still missing. And the other 17 people who we have been looking for an extended period of time. But in between, from 2021, we have had many other of our supporters abducted and released after 3 months, after a month, and several of them after 2 months presented before courts of law. And courts really, in a shameful manner, entertain these cases and remand these people. If someone has been under detention for 2 months, for 3 months, and this person is presented before you as a judicial officer, before you do anything, why don't you inquire into the circumstances under which this person was arrested and kept under incommunicado detention for all that period of time? So it is a big, big, big shame that this is happening to Uganda, in Uganda. You all know that for an extended period of time now, over 38 days, we were demanding to know the whereabouts of two Kenyans, Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo. The lawyers went to court. Myself, I saw an affidavit demanding the whereabouts of these people, because these are people who came to Uganda legally, obtained the necessary documentation, came here and did whatever they were supposed to do. And they just passed by one of our rallies in Jinja, and they came back to Kampala to do their business. These were abducted by the military, kept under incommunicado detention for 38 days. 38 days. And as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, people went to court, and the court simply said that these were missing persons. Court said that you cannot squeeze water out of a stone. And now you can all see what is going on. The same court which said that, the 18 missing persons were non-existent. Even when there is evidence that these individuals are Ugandans, we have their passports, their national IDs and other things. So, and of course you saw General Museveni, after all the state infrastructure saying clearly that these individuals were not in their custody, he eventually came out and said these people were being kept in a fridge. What kind of country are we living in? That you get people, detain them. Of course, later on they told us that they were in Kasenyi at a military facility. Now you can imagine, these people, their government got involved. You've heard that the former president got involved, and that is how they were released. So think about so many Ugandans who do not have, another country to speak on their behalf. No wonder they said that where they were detained, there were over 150 Ugandans there at that military facility. Nobody knows where they are. And they pointed out some of the names of those people. They also said that in that facility, there are Nigerians and people from other nationalities who have been kept there for months, for years. So this brings to question whether our 18 missing persons are also at Kasenyi or at any other facility. And our demand to General Museveni is to release those 18 missing persons, because those people do not have any offense. And indeed, not just the 18 persons. These guys are saying that they were there with over 150 Ugandans. If people commit any offense, why are they not produced before courts of law and tried if they have anything to answer? So I was just giving this as a background, really, as a precursor to what happened in Mbarara, to see that this is just a continuation of the evils that we've seen, only that they increased during elections. You all know that before the Mbarara debacle, there was a raid in Lira, where the police and military raided the hotel room of our president and the hotel where he was, put pepper spray in those rooms, tear gassed people, and took how many people? Eventually, charging 10 of them. Those 10 are still in detention in Lira as we speak. From there, when the campaign team came to Mbarara, they picked over 20 people, about 23 people, and from their rooms again, at night, they raided, broke into those facilities and took these individuals. Up to now, those people are in detention. They were taken to Chirhura and charged with various ridiculous offenses, as it were. Now, when we had our rally in Mbarara city, in fact, the intention of these people was to block us from having the rally in Mbarara, because on that day, we were meant to first go to the district. There's a difference between Mbarara city and Mbarara district. So our intention was initially to go to Mbarara district at a place called Ruwindi and another called Wizwera, and then finally conclude with a rally in Mbarara city. What they did was to waylay us on the road to Wizwera, but you can see that if we had gone to Wizwera first, there was no chance of us coming back to Mbarara city. So after completing our rally in Mbarara city, as we headed towards Wizwera, we fell into an ambush. In a criminal manner. These people were behaving in a very, very criminal manner. Because if you want, and indeed like the statement of ULS reads, if you want these individuals, why don't you issue summons to them? And if they refuse to come, you can take it a notch higher and maybe conduct arrests, but also not to get people on the road block one side of the road and another, deploy the military, start beating up people. You saw how people were being manhandled, women undressed in a very, very shameful way. And of course, in that operation, over 120 people were taken. Although later on the regime admitted 89, but as you can see, even now the numbers have been increasing in terms of those who are being taken to courts and all that. So we had 120 people. So you can see that right now as we speak, the National Unity Platform, from the time we started campaigns, over 120 or over 150 of our people have been arrested violently. So those people were taken to Mbarara CPS, majority of them. Others were taken to other facilities. And we, of course, tried to access them. Initially, they said, you do not have permission to see these people and all that. Because we went with the media, I think there was some bit of embarrassment, and it was also a surprise visit. They allowed us to see them. What did we see? We found these people on handcuffs. As you also in the media, they were on handcuffs in detention at a police place where they were already constrained, where they were already restrained in cells, but these people were on handcuffs. They told us that many of them were beaten up, assaulted in different ways. Later on, the following day, we went to even deliver food and other items. We were blocked from seeing them. They said we could completely not see those individuals. And the lawyers were also denied access to them for 2 days. Sunday, they were not allowed to access them. Monday, they were not allowed to access them, until the regime then divided them and started dumping them at different police stations across the country. Some were taken to Liantonde, others to Mayuge, others were taken to a court in Mbarara, others were taken to Chiruhura, others to Mubende, others to Abim, others to Lira, and the others in Kampala. I cannot stand here and account for all the people who were arrested because I don't know where they are. We asked these people to even give us a list of all the people who were arrested. They just refused. So even now, some families have been calling us to ask us where their people are. Because you see, the families were also blocked from accessing their people with a lot of impunity. Article 23 of our Constitution is clear. Article 28 is clear. But these individuals, where we are right now, it seems as though there's really no intention of following the constitutional principles when it comes to the opposition or NUP supporters, so to say. So the next of kin, personal doctors, lawyers, all were denied access to these individuals, just like it has been with many people. You all know what happened to Eddie Mutwe, who was taken in apparently in a basement, tortured, and with a lot of impunity, and many others. So that has been the situation in the National Unity Platform. I think the question which every Ugandan needs to ask is, where is the judiciary in all this? Where is the judiciary? Where is the judiciary? Because, some people keep asking us, do you report these cases? Yes, many times we report these cases. We file cases in the judiciary. We have made numerous complaints at the Uganda Human Rights Commission. But the Uganda Human Rights Commission will come up and tell you that the 18 missing NUP supporters are ghosts. They are not non-existent. Then you have the judiciary coming up to say you cannot squeeze blood or water out of a rock. When actually, because you see, when there is a habeas corpus application, the judiciary must inquire into the circumstances under which this person was taken. It was very clear. There were witnesses, there were people who saw these Kenyan brothers being taken away by people moving in, drones, armed people. And I believe the judiciary should also have taken judicial notice of the fact that despite a court ruling, a high court judgment, they have continued abducting people using these drones, and there's no other, institution that is using these drones to abduct people and commit all these crimes against humanity. So as the National Unity Platform, yes, we shall continue engaging, filing cases with the judiciary, although we don't have a lot of hope and trust. We are going to continue engaging the Uganda Human Rights Commission, although it has disappointed us very, very many times. We are going to continue raising our voices about all these violations that are taking place. But I think ultimately it falls on us, the people of Uganda, to rise up and say enough is enough. It falls on us as the lawyers in this country to say enough is enough. Because while people think that this is happening to NUP, it will happen to everybody. It is already happening to many people. You heard what these Kenyans are saying, that there is even a brother to General Tafile at Kasenyi. And I saw General Tafile talking about one Amos here. Maybe he's the person he was actually talking about, who is still in detention without trial, incommunicado detention. Nobody knows where he is. So you can imagine, if you have someone maybe related or not even related to the Minister for Internal Affairs being detained incommunicado for all that time. So you can imagine. And what I want to emphasize is that for these Kenyan comrades, for them they were lucky because there was a foreign government speaking on their behalf. There was all this pressure mounting from different quarters. But there are all these Ugandans who are taken to safe houses, tortured, raped, subjected to all sorts of violations. And there's nothing that is going on there. So I think the Uganda Law Society and indeed lawyers in this country need to do more, a little bit more. I think we are grateful to the Uganda Law Society for when we reached out to them, they offered to reach out to lawyers, as you heard the statement, to offer legal assistance and all that. But I think where we are, maybe we need to take more radical steps as the legal fraternity in this country, and indeed all professionals, because you can see that these violations, and at some point they were taking Muslim sheikhs, and people said, oh, those are Muslim sheikhs. They came for, Dr. Besje and Obed Lutare. They were abducted from Kenya, and all these things happened to them. Now we're talking about Kenyans, foreigners who came, and these things happened to them, and the Nigerians who are still there. NUP supporters. But the rest of the country should not look on and say these things are happening there. We should all realize that we are in this together. And I don't know if I'm allowed to do this as a final remark, that protest vote is the answer. For us, we are thinking that you cannot change all these things. Some people, for me as a lawyer and who is interested in constitutionalism and good governance and all that, I reached a point and realized that, it's not enough to be in a classroom and teach about constitutionalism in a country that does not respect the Constitution. It's not enough for me to be talking about human rights, teaching about human rights. I found myself really wasting a lot of time. You're there telling university students that, there should be 3 arms of government which should operate like this in a country where all that is really not taken into account. So if more lawyers, more professionals can come on the front line and we try to change this country together, I think that is when we shall see true results. And then we can build a new culture, a new country based on the rule of law, on constitutionalism, and respect for human rights. I thank you so much for listening to me.
A bigger round of applause to the Secretary General of NUP. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the thought-provoking discussions that Uganda Law Society initiates, and we are yet asking the same questions from 2020. We don't want to shy away from these questions because that is the only way we can make it better. Imagine the precurrent speaker is a teacher and he's wondering what he is going to teach to his students. And of course, the figures are very disgusting, they're sickening, they're not very good to hear. So far, they've lost 150 supporters that are unaccounted for. Not a very good number. And the campaigns have just begun. Are they even a month old? We have 2 more months to go, and there is yet different calendar dates that are going to be shared. And of course, he has also alluded to the fact that in 2020, there was 4,000 members or supporters of NUP that also were disappeared and always came back after there was pressure from the different society organizations, the NUP itself, and their citizens. That also shows that it is a clarion call to all members, regardless of who you are, because these are supporters, these are relatives, these are your brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles. Of course, we are aware and we continue to decry the position of the courts of law, especially after the Supreme Court ruling that ordered that these matters and files be transferred from what is the DPP doing about it. We would also want to stand with the NUP and mourn the death and loss of Miss Monica Nabukera, who is the wife to Mr. Chibalama, who was disappeared, and in that regard would like to commemorate and commiserate with the family and of course the NUP that have been closest to her. May her soul continue to rest in peace, but also may the Lord watch over the family and the children, especially. If you remember, the social media was awash. The children are quite young and now they are parentless. Let us continue to stand with them so that we can also agree that it's not well out there. As he has said, and the clarion call remains, the NUP supporters that were either abducted or disappeared from Lira and those that are from Mbarara have eventually been redistributed to different districts. We've heard of Abim, we've heard of Mubende, we've heard of Liantonde, which of course comes back to what he finally said, made a clarion call to the Uganda Society and its members that are over 7,000 and distributed within the country with the different legal aid clinics that we have and run in the 22 clinics. We are calling upon the lawyers and all the other members that can offer support to be on standby, because that is another aspect that cannot go and be swept under the carpet. Ladies and gentlemen, still on the same topic, would like to thank you, Secretary General, for your enthusiasm and your commitment to the cause, and would like to commit ourselves once again, like we did before, that we shall be with you in as far as upholding the rule of law is concerned as the Uganda Law Society. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to move forth to the next speaker on the same topic, because it's a very hot topic. It's nail-biting. Would like to inquire whether Dr. Sarah Birete is with us. She is joining us online because she's not in the country. She requested that we continue to push on the digital transformation, which is going to be shared about later on by one of our very panelists and how it works. But we are here doing it in practice. Dr. Sarah Birete is ready for us. Would like to know so that we can activate the microphone. But as she is coming online, she is the founding partner and executive director for the Center for Constitutional Governance, CCG. Previously, she was the deputy executive director for the same NGO since 2011 to 2019. Prior to 2011, she was working as a public defender at the Public Defenders Association of Uganda. She's a lawyer by profession, a human rights activist, and a partner at Dickens, Kamugisha and Company Advocates. She chairs the National Coalition on Civic Space in Uganda, and she's the focal point person for the international human rights defenders known as VUCA Allies for Uganda. She has enriched knowledge and understanding of governance issues, especially in areas of constitutionalism, human rights, civic space, electoral democracy, land rights, research and advocacy, public interest litigation, as well as conflict transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome Dr. Sarah Birete, who is joining us online. Yes, Doctor, can you hear us?
Yes, please. Thank you so much,
You're-
the Radcon Nipa,
You're most
for
welcome.
inviting me to share insights on this important topical issue and concern of many Ugandans on the emerging electoral violence in the 2026 elections. Briefly, to highlight more beyond what the Secretary General has shared, we have had a trend of increasing election violence since 2001 in Uganda. Every other election, we have new aspects of violence emerging, targeting the leading opposition contenders in every electoral cycle. So for receiving most violence since 2021 elections, it's now facing, different trends of violence. From 2020, we have had a series of abductions like Lewis has just shared, continuous enforced disappearances in the country. And like we shared at the Law Society previously, if you go to Article 8 of the International, Criminal Court Establishing Treaty, the Rome Statute, continuous enforced disappearances of a particular section of people, and in this case we have opposition supporters, amounts to crimes against humanity. And we need, as the legal fraternity, to face these crimes against humanity in Uganda, now going into 6 years of continuous enforced disappearances in our country. If you reflect on the first key, public event was the disappearance of the Kenyan human rights defenders. If you look at the events that they've disclosed, I think the Uganda Law Society should petition the Human Rights Commission to visit the safe house in Kisenyi that has been mentioned and demand for the release of more than 100 abducted citizens of Uganda and other countries that are held in that dungeon. But away from that, if we look at the key aspect mentioned in our presentation, the Mbarara election violence, members to the key principles of free and fair elections that are being violated in the scenes we have witnessed, from the Lila Hotel raid to the Chiruhura violence and the Mbarara City violence against the opposition. You have a violation of freedom of choice. For example, in areas where, NUP rallies have been blocked, routes changed, venues changed, you have citizens that have failed to benefit from the free access to information of the National Unity Platform candidates. You have a principle of equal opportunity and access being violated when it comes to the National Unity Platform candidates, the freedom to access voters, the equal opportunity that should be afforded to his campaign team, his security detail that has all been abducted and are in jail. All of those principles are violated. The other key principle being violated that is of more important concern is the rule of law. If you look at Article 23 of the Constitution, I think it's the most abused article when it comes to manner of arrest or procedures of how the liberty of Ugandans should be taken away. The young people that are being abducted, the raid of Lila Hotel at night and spray of hotel guests in the night, the conduct of police in continuous abuse of Article 23 of the Constitution should be called out, because they've made it a culture that Ugandans are arrested as terrorists. Even terrorists are accorded some respect. If you look at the way opposition supporters are handled, they are handled in a worse manner than even terrorists. Jamiru Mukuru was arrested in a more decent manner as compared to the young people supporting the National Unity Platform. And we should not let this become a culture in our politics. The other principle that has been violated is of peaceful and orderly conduct. So you have security violating the peaceful conduct that they are supposed to protect. And sometimes the Electoral Commission, turns a deaf ear when it comes to torture of opposition and violation of principles of elections. I have not heard a statement about violence in Mbarara from the Electoral Commission. They only stopped at Churuhura. And when it came to Mbarara, I don't know whether they are overwhelmed, and they should be called out. Yesterday, the UPDF released a statement warning voters on not staying at polling stations. What is the role of the UPDF in elections? If this was a necessary communication, of course it is outside the law, the laws governing elections. It should come from Electoral Commission. So when you have UPDF terrorizing voters and sending a message out there on how they are ready to rig and manipulate the will of the people through intimidation and threats, and this August gathering of the legal fraternity should call them out. Under what conditions is UPDF warning and claiming to take over the security of voting materials, something that is not provided for in our law?
Sorry, we got a hiccup on the network. Clearly, IT department, are we together? We've lost the doctor. Doctor, we've lost you. Are you able to hear us? Doctor, can you hear us? Sorry, the IT is working on something. We're
Recording in progress.
Doctor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
We lost you. We lost you a little just around the UPDF statement and the role of the UPDF in the elections.
Yes, thank you so much. I was commenting about the statement released by the UPDF yesterday, warning voters to just cast their votes and leave the polling station. It's a statement of intimidation, a premeditated situation for UPDF to manipulate the will of the people. And this intimidation should not be accepted because according to our electoral laws, the security around polling stations is only a concern of police. Even the police that is supposed to come in proximity with voting materials, it should be police constables because guns are prohibited in polling areas by our laws. So under what conditions does police, UPDF, issue such an intimidating statement to voters, overrunning the mandate of the Electoral Commission and police in elections? We should call them out and tell them to stop intimidating voters and interfering with the electoral management process in Uganda. So having said that, and given that my network is not stable, sorry, I am addressing you from the Electoral Integrity Summit from Lusaka, Zambia, and where I am, internet seems to be giving me problems, but I'm glad to have shared with you. I have Nancy, an upcoming constitution advocate at CCG, physically in the room, and I've prepared her to take over in case my internet lets me down. Nancy Ayot is prepared to take over on behalf of CCG, and I thank you so much, the Radical New Bar, for always sharing these important programs, and we are committed to fighting for peaceful elections in Uganda together with other stakeholders. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for your remarks. They have been very brief but important because they have touched exactly what we were wondering and asking ourselves about, this being an increasing show of electoral violence from 2001, and especially going by Article 8 of the Rome Statute to show that, well, we're not standing alone because we have laws that are being violently broken and in the face of everybody and in the international scenes. Of course, we're not any happy about the Kenyans that were abducted, and it is also clear because the president himself admitted to their abduction and seemed to give a reason and called them rioters, rioters that were just trying to disrupt elections. A very, very big statement from the president. And of course, his son, who is the CDF, also made mention of the same. And of course, it left a lot to be asked and wondered, which is very, very unfortunate. And the ULS, of course, is concerned about these activities, and we are not going to be seated. We're not going to be seated idle. We are also going to move and try to see that our voice is heard, of course, in representation of the lawyers, the members, and the general public. We are also aware of the clarion call that the doctor has made to petition the Human Rights Commission. We shall see about that. We have some good work on our hands, and we are also, of course, in consultation with the government and the governing council, make our voice heard, because anyway, there's nowhere else you can have such a platform other than the Radical New Bar. So thank you so much, Doctor. The peaceful and orderly conduct principle that you've mentioned that is being continually broken is very absurd. It is very shambolic, and we want to call upon the government departments and the authorities that are relevant and are attached to keeping law and order. That's the police and the prisons, as well as the UPDF, to take heed. Of course, you've also talked about the UPDF statement that is intimidating, and you've asked the question, what is the UPDF doing in elections, which of course is not embedded in the electoral laws. We're very grateful. Thank you so much. While you are at the Electoral Integrity Summit, we'd like to wish you the best in your deliberations as you represent the country, Uganda, as well as the organization that you stand for. Miss Nancy, we're also thankful for your presence. We know that in case of anything, you will stand in very, very well to represent the doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still asking the same questions, and we don't yet have answers, because before that, we cannot speak very well of the government, especially in this period when very many lives are at stake, because elections touch everybody, and it is very important and incumbent upon us as individuals to take heed and follow the law. But always know that your head should be out there watching for whether you're going to be taken in or not. So the questions are still asked: where is electoral violence? Rather, where is electoral justice? And are our institutions protecting or constraining the people's right to choose freely? And what does it mean for the legal profession to defend that right, as well as other stakeholders like the media that also take part, and civil society organizations? We are going into the third and last speaker to touch that topic, who I wanted to know if is ready for us. And if he is not, I'm reliably informed that Mr. Moses Nwagaba is unavailable. He was supposed to address us online, just like Doctor has done, but we have failed to get access to him, and would like to, of course, apologize, because the panel was ready and everybody had prepared. But of course, because of technology, we are constrained in as far as having him with us is concerned. And in that regard, we would like to move to the next topic. And in case we get Mr. Moses, we shall find a way to delve into what he has to say. I've also been informed very, very urgently that the Secretary General of the NUP is not very, very friendly to time right now. He has a very, very tight schedule. As you've heard his deliberations, he would like to leave, but we would like to take this opportunity to delve into question and answer for the first session, so as to move into the second session that will be the Kazinda family matter. Ladies and gentlemen, please take the honor to ask questions, and to Mr. Rubongoya as well as Doctor. We still have her, but like she said, she's quite engaged in that summit, so we'll use just a few minutes of hers to answer some of the few questions that are coming in from the members physically present and those that are online and would like for you to engage. There's a microphone here. If you have a question in the house, kindly raise your hand, identify yourself, and ask your question. In the meantime, we have a question from Mr. Siraj Musa. Thank you so much, Mr. Siraj, for reaching out and to us. We appreciate your follow-up and what he's asking. What is happening in our country? will keep getting worse till the general elections early next year. Lawyers, let us stand up and speak up. I am ready to join the team of pro bono advocates to give legal support to victims of electoral injustice. It wasn't a question, it was an answer to the clarion call that we read out here, signed by the Vice President. We would like to respectfully appreciate Mr. Siraj Musa for respecting and honoring that call. Lawyers are called upon to join hands and fight this electoral injustice. Thank you so much. Miss Nabale Sylvia, thank you so much once again. Thank you, Rubongoya and Birete. How can we as citizens stand with you to protect our youths? As a mother, I worry for the future of this country, but I don't know what we can do as ordinary citizens. I don't know if you're able to follow up on that question, Mr. Rubongoya. There's a microphone before you. Kindly activate it and shoot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's a very, very important statement to hear. I mean, someone saying they want to do something really, and I think everybody can do something. When I was at the police in Mbarara and they were blocking us and all that, I was very, very glad to see even ordinary citizens who are not related to these people, who were trying to bring food to these people who were in prison. We want to appreciate the people who have been, coming in as sureties for these people when they go to court. So I think depending on where you are and who you are, because if you're a lawyer, you can support in terms of legal support. If you want to support logistically, or if you want to support our legal team at the party offices, you can, contribute in any way so that we're able to represent these people. I just want to say that the intention of the regime in doing all these kinds of things is to keep the party busy. Because instead of campaigning, right now from here I'm going to a prison to check on political prisoners. Because like I said, before this phase, there were the Waiswas, the Eddie Mutwes, Sauda Madada, and others. You get calls, someone has collapsed in prison, another is sick. All these things that keep happening. So we think that the regime is to keep us busy as a party, to drain the little resources we have. Having blocked the funds that should be coming to the party, they want us to even spend the little we have on these kinds of things. You all know how expensive bail is, production warrants. So it's a deliberate plot by the regime to distract us, keep us busy, and also keep the families of these people agitated. Instead of now focusing on the campaign and all that, everybody gets involved in this. So whoever is able to give us a hand in all these ways is really welcome to do that.
Thank you so much. Doctor, do we still have you for a minute so as you could answer that question and run thereafter? If we still have you.
Thank you so much. I will answer that. But in addition, I forgot to speak about the manner in which women NUP supporters were violated in Mbarara. If you look at the women police officers that were undressing NUP female supporters, I think that's something that we should not accept as the legal fraternity in Uganda. There is a code of conduct, even if somebody has committed a crime, in which they should be treated. But when the dehumanization goes to body shaming, embarrassment of women, mothers, and their crime is of supporting opposition in Uganda, I think Law Society, in your statement, this should be the first paragraph. And even in the complaint statement, that we are ready to endorse as CCG, going to the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the police women that were captured on camera and addressing NUP women leaders and supporters should be dismissed from the police force. Sylvia, you ask a good question, what can you do? I want to refer to a statement by Martin Luther King that nobody can climb your back unless it's bent. Ugandans, we have bent our back politically over a long time. This is the time to stretch our back and reclaim our country. You can make a contribution from wherever you are. Again, quoting Martin Luther King, start wherever you are, use what you can, do whatever you can in your means, and sustain the endeavor. So you can send money to NUP to contribute to the legal work or law society. You can send money to the prisoners, political prisoners in prison. You can visit them. You can mobilize other people. But collectively, as citizens, we must stand up to the impunity in our country and reclaim our citizenry as Ugandans. I thank you very much and allow me to sign off at this time. Thank you.
Most obliged. Thank you so much, Doctor. Once again, we're very honored to have had you, and we want to thank you for the opportunity. May you return to your summit as we continue to delve into these questions. Mr. Rubongoya, there is a question from Eddie K. He begins with a statement. Thank you, Eddie. But let us be honest. Sometimes the supporters are also hooligans who cause chaos. We can't always blame the police. The citizens themselves are not easy to deal with. NUP should tell their supporters to be orderly. This is a call, of course, but you can share your remarks.
I would really tell you, Eddie, that what you've just said is ridiculous, for lack of a better word, because we saw hooliganism on display in Chiruhura. That was hooliganism. You saw these people dressed in yellow. When our president was there to campaign, those who were holding sticks and beating up our supporters, none of them is in detention. They came out and blocked the roads, started hurling insults, throwing stones at our presidential candidate and the NUP supporters. Why is Eddie not concerned with that kind of hooliganism? Because that is, I mean, if you're talking about violence, I know that is the violence that they should be talking about. But our supporters were not beating up anybody. They were simply there supporting the candidate of their choice. Some people support hooliganism. I mean, every time we go to police, they're always saying, oh, you people hold processions. Who is not holding processions? You know, from Seven's team and the NRM, they block roads for hours. They disrupt the teaching and learning in our schools. You also saw what happened in Mbarara. And you saw what happened in Ajumani. Everywhere Genome 7 goes, they will order all the schools in the area to deliver those children to those campaign venues. All these violations, nothing is done to them. You've seen how they go around defacing our posters, removing our posters. Whenever they have rallies, they first go do operations, remove our posters from like 3 districts. And even the posters of local candidates, as long as they are NUP opposition candidates, they remove all of them. Why is that Eddie not interested, not concerned about that level of impunity, those kinds of crimes that are being committed? Those are electoral offenses. But when the police spokesperson comes out, you'll never hear them say anything about that. Our comrades, Alex Waiswa Mufumbido, now Olivia Lutaya, Sauda and others are in detention for apparently conducting military drills. But all of you saw recently a video of the NRM Secretary General presiding over, drills themselves. These were doing real drills, singing military songs, doing formations. Police is silent about it. So do not justify this kind of impunity, this kind of violence by blaming the victims. What we should be doing is to come together as the people of Uganda to fight all these crimes against humanity and not trying to justify them in any way.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. We have an answer from Miss Nancy, who has been recommended by Dr. Sarah Birete. Let's hear her out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to just answer from Mr. Rubongoya, he's right on all his accounts. However, I want us to give a legal perspective to the responsibilities of 2 different groups of people, especially in terms of their responsibilities under the law. Number 1, the law enforcement or the police has mandate to maintain law and enforce laws. It It is also expected to act impartially and to protect citizens' rights. Violations of laws and rights can lead to accountability under legal frameworks. However, on the other side, whoever perpetrates violence, especially the citizens, whether it is NUP or NRM, they are unlawful actions. They are individuals who are just doing their own thing. They are not mandated okay, everyone is mandated to protect, to maintain law and order. However, they do not have the same weight of responsibility as law enforcement like the police. So they cannot be held under the same scale. And we cannot view their actions the same way we view the actions of the police. So I would like us to stop putting them on the same comparison line, especially in this regard. The police has a mandate to protect citizens, and it has also a mandate to use the least amount of force required under the law. And we've seen that the force has been excess. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for that answer to the question to Eddie, from Eddie. Eddie, thank you so much. And for all those that have interacted with us, we want to thank you for your time and your intriguing questions. Mr. Rubongoya, thank you so much. We would like to bless you. And as you leave, may God go ahead of you. May he meet you in your endeavors as you go to fight for the people who was voiceless. May he cover you with the precious blood of Jesus. We would like to take a moment to take a picture with the panelists who have included Mr. Rubongoya and the rest. As we excuse him, then we can delve into the second and third segments of our discussions. Adam?
Thank you. Okay, good man. Do the media want me to summarize Uganda here or there outside? Briefly here. Yeah. I can do that in a bit. Well, byetubadde twogerako okusinga bibadde ku nsonga z'okutyoboola eddembe ly'obuntu. Fenga ekibiina kya National Unity Platform ndowooza ffe abasinze okukosebwa ate bino tebyakatandika kati. Kyenjogeddeko nti bw'osoma emisango gyonna n'egyo emisango egyawaabwa Dr. Besigye ku kalulu, for example, aka 2006 n'aka 2011 ogenda kwesanga ebikolobero byakolebwanga ku bantu be bawambanga, be bakubanga n'ebirala byonna bimanyi okutyoboola eddembe ly'obuntu. Naye kye tuze tulaba nti embeera oba oliawo egenze eyongera kwonooneka. Kyova olaba mu kalulu ka 2021 amagye gawamba abantu baffe abasukka mu 4,000. Abantu abasinga bawambibwa, abamu ne batwalibwa mu kooti z'amagye ng'abantu babwe tebategedde, abalala ne bakuumibwa mu bifo ebitategeerekeka okutuusa akalulu bwe kaggwa ne Museveni n'amala kwerayiza ne balyoka bata abantu abo. So naye okiraba nti ne wetwogerera tukyalina abantu baffe 18 be tukyanoonya okuviira ddala mu kalulu ako be baakwata ng'abantu bonna balaba nga baatwalibwa b'amagye n'ebirala ebitongole ebirala ebyokwerinda oba ebyali badde ebyokwerinda, kubanga bwe biba bikola ebikolobero ebyo ate erinnya lyabyo baba balyonoonye. So tuvumirira ebikolwa ebyo byonna bye bakola. Mulabye ennaku eziwedde nga bannakenya be tubadde tunoonya okumala ebbanga ly'ennaku 38 zonna, nga ekitongole kiramuzi kyavaayo kyennyini ne kigamba nti abo abantu baali tebali mu mikono gya gavumenti kubanga gavumenti yeegaana. Kakati ekitongole kiramuzi tekirina kugamba nti gavumenti yatugambye tebalina. Ekitongole kiramuzi kirina obuvunaanyizibwa okukola kye bayita inquiry oba okunoonyereza. Kakati muganda waffe Sam Mugumya bamuwamba, mukimanyi bulungi nnyo. Abantu ababulijjo balaba nga abamagye be bamutwala. Kakati ekitongole kiramuzi kyo bwe kivaayo ne kigamba ono omuntu sifa abamuyina, ekitongole kiramu kikikakatako okukola inquiries bwe kiba kyetaagisa kirina n'okugenda ne kituuka ku scene. Ekitongole kiramuzi bwe kiba kisobola okugenda nga waliwo enkaayana z'ettaka ne kigenda ne kiraba ebiriyo kye tuyita visiting the locus mu luzungu, lwaki tekisobola kwesitula kyo ne kigenda we bawambidde omuntu ne kinoonyereza mu bantu aba bulijjo ne kikola inquiries okumanya omuntu ono baani abaamutwala? So ekitongole kiramuzi kyalabisiddwa kubanga kyavaayo ne kigamba nti bano bannakenya nti kiringa boogezaako okujja amazzi oba omusaayi mu jjinja oba mu lwazi, nga bagamba nti bano abantu si be baliyo. Naye ate eventually ne General Museveni nyini n'avaayo n'agamba nti bano abantu mbadde mbaterese mu fridge. So kyanaku nnyo kya buswavu okuba nga tuli mu ggwanga eritambula bwe lityo. We twogerera mu campaign eno abantu baffe abasukka mu 150 bakakwatibwa, era tiimu ya basooka ne bakwata abantu baffe erira. Tulina abantu 10 bali eyo, tulina abantu abasukka mu 2 bebakwatira Mbarara ne batwala Kiruhura, ate ne baddamu ne batradinga oba ne tugwa mu ambush yabwe ne bakwata abantu abasukka mu 12. Abantu abo twogerera batwaliddwa mu districts ez'enjawulo, omuli Lyantonde, omuli Mubende, omuli Kiruhura, abamu bakyali Mbarara, abo ne batwala Gulu, abo ne batwala Lira, abo ne babatwala Abim mu districts ez'enjawulo, Mayuge n'awalala. Kya buswavu nti abantu baffe abamu be batutte mu bitundu ebyo tebaalinyangayo, tebaagendangayo. Kiringa gino emisango gy'owulira egyogamba nti twakola drill ku kitebe kyaffe. Abantu abamu be baatwala ku misango egyo, kabeere Waiswa Mufumbiro, kabeere Olivia Lutaya, kabeere Doreen Kaija, baali tebali kavule kwolwo olunaku, tebalinya nayo. Naye bano kubanga baba banoonya musango, ekisango ekyokuteeka ku bantu baffe, kakati ne bavaayo ne bagamba abantu abamu mbadde njogera nabo jjo, bano abasibe nga batukubirako amasimu nga batugamba nze sima gwe omulundi gwange ogusoose ogenda Abim. Naye bw'osoma charge sheet babagamba nti ono yabba akasimu mu Abim, ono simanyi ya zibe ekkubo na obstructing traffic mu district y'Erira. Abantu baffe nga baali tebagenze eyo mu bitundu ebyo. So kya buswavu nnyo okulaba nga regime ya Museveni yeeyongera okukola ebyo. Kye tumanyi obulungi ekigendererwa kya bino byonna kwegezaako okustraininga. Bamanyi bulungi nnyo ekisooka nti tetulina ssente kubanga baazisiba ne zitwali tufuna mu mateeka. Kakati baagala n'ako akasente akatono ke tulina mu kifo ky'okukakozesa kampeyini zaffe, mu kifo ky'okuba ebipande n'ebirala, baagala tukateekemu ebyo, ate beiru, ate balooya, ate production warrants n'ebirala bwe bityo. Ekirala baagala tudistractinga mu kifo ky'okubeera nga tuli ku nsonga za kampeyini buli kiseera tubeeremu ebyo. Tulina abasibe, tugenze kukyalira abasibe, family zaabwe tezirina zirabirira n'ebirala bwe bityo. So tukubiriza Bannayuganda ogenda mu maaso n'omulimu gwe tuliko, kawofube tumuyita protest vote, tusobole okwenunula nga bannansi. Akakiiko k'ebyokulonda kalina kyekubiira. Wenjogerera twakasindika okwemulugunya kwa mirundi egisukka mu 10 eri akakiiko k'ebyokulonda. Over 10 complaints ze twakabasindikira kubanga ffe tuba twagala nnyo okubeera ku record. So twakasindika complaints ezisukka mu 10 eri akakiiko k'ebyokulonda ku nsonga ez'enjawulo. Buli kimu kyonna kye batukola oba batuyisiza mu makubo agawala oba bakubye abantu baffe bakoze eki, tuwandikira akakiiko k'ebyokulonda ne twemulugunya. Naye okwemulugunya okwonna kwe twakakola teri kye baakatuddamu n'ekintu n'ekimu. Abo abantu abavubuka b'Ekiruhura bwe baatwataki nga balina emigo naki, twawandikira akakiiko k'ebyokulonda. Naye ne bwe twogerera tekavangayo kwogera ku nsonga ezo. Poliisi mu kifo ky'okukwata abo abantu abajja n'emigo n'amabaale ne batandika okukuba abantu baffe, baagenda ne bakwata abantu baffe ne bagamba nti abantu baffe be bakubye aba NRM. So nga buli omu akiraba nti be baakola ebyo. Kakati ebya UPDF okuvaayo n'eyogera bwetyo kyanaku nnyo, kya buswavu. Kubanga nga Dr. Sarah Birete bwagambye tebalina role, amagye tegalina role mu electioneering. Obuvunaanyizibwa bw'amagye buli clearly spelled down mu constitution y'eggwanga, obwa police buli clearly spelled down. tulowooza nti akakiiko k'ebyokulonda bwe kaba kalina police constables be baali badde bavunaanyizibwa ku nsonga z'okulonda so si magye si kitongole kirala kyonna kyonna kubanga abantu baffe baba balina era mubadde mukiraba etteeka ligaana emmundu kubeera ku polling station naye twali kawempe ne bayigiza emamba tebakoma just kuyingiza mundu ne bayingiza n'emmamba so kya buswavu nnyo naye bye byonna tusobola okubikyusa singa bannayuganda bonna bavaayo ne bakola kye balina okukola mwebale nnyo.
Thank you so much, Mr. David Lewis Rubongoya, the Secretary General of NUP, who has graced us with his presence and has delved into our first segment that has gone successfully. Thank you so much, Doctor. I know you must have gone off or you were only listening in. That was just a Luganda version of Mr. Rubongoya's presentation. We thank you for standing with us. And now from the ballot box, we're moving to the courtroom, and the topic is judicial accountability. This is not a new aspect to be discussed. We, as the Radical New Bar, Uganda Law Society, have been at this more than once, and we have ably illustrated how much for us judicial accountability means everything, because we are officers of court, we represent officers of court, and we are the lawyers who are supposed to bring sanctity to the judicature. And while we were at that, we received a petition from a family, that's the Kazinda family, in regard to a matter that is painstakingly taking them out of hope about a matter that has since been had for over 15 years. For those that have been in and around Kampala and within Uganda, you will know that the Kazinda family, or Mr. Kazinda, has been a subject of discussion, a subject of intrigue in regard to the court matters that were eventually sent over for adjudication. We received a request, and that was addressed to the president of the Uganda Law Society, and the reference was a request for intervention in the delayed handling of Constitutional Appeal number 5 of 2020, Attorney General versus Kazinda Godfrey. I'll read it verbatim, and then we shall use the opportunity to use this segment to hear from a member of the family, as we earlier on alluded in the beginning of the sessions, as well as a lawyer who represents them in the courts of law. It reads, we act for and on behalf of Geoffrey Kazinda, our client, in respect to the above captioned matter, court matter, and on whose instructions we kindly address you as follows. Our client expresses deep concern over the prolonged delay in the disposal of Constitutional Appeal number 5 of 2020, noting with disappointment that no tangible progress has been made despite his consistent efforts to have the matter addressed. Copies of the relevant correspondences are attached. The continued delay has caused great prejudice to our client and undermines the right to a fair and expeditious trial as enshrined under Article 28(1) of the Constitution. We therefore kindly request your good office to intervene and engage the appropriate authorities to ensure Constitutional Appeal number 5 of 2020 is finally disposed of. We are going to be addressing this matter, which of course is going to touch judicial accountability, which of course also was at the fore when we were celebrating the Rule of Law Week just a month ago, or rather 1.5 months ago. And of course, we do not want to act any different if it hasn't been addressed. Of course, we did a few things as the Uganda Law Society to bring to the fore some aspects of accountability that were not really delved with by the judiciary, and we continue to do that. And we are going to use this opportunity to welcome, before we hear from the lawyer, we're going to welcome Mr. Lubulwa Peter, who is a family member of the Kazinda family, to throw more light on the matter summarily, before we can receive the lawyer representing the Kazinda family in court so as to have our second segment of the day heard out. Welcome with me, Mr. Peter Lubulwa. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Ivan Tusovira next to Geoffrey Kazinda and Peter Lubulwa. We are here before you on the petition that we brought forth before even that we had written to council requesting them to help us to write to the Supreme Court to see that they see how the CJ can intervene and see how the appeal number 5 of 2020 is disposed of, because it has taken long, and that in number it is 5 years ever since it was first heard. It was also brought for reconstitution in 2024, but our concern was, before going to the lawyer, that all the matters that were on the cause list, the matters that were reconstituted, have been read out and all those judgments are out. But our challenge is, our matter was one of those matters, and it is of importance that it's a matter that involves a person that is incarcerated for almost 13 years. So we found it like injustice, whereby we had to talk to the lawyer, and the lawyer as a family tried to help us to write to the Supreme Court, specifically writing to the CJ, the Chief Justice, so that they can intervene and see whether this matter is disposed of. But let alone even the prisoner, Kazinda Geoffrey himself, wrote also to the CJ to see that he is being helped so that this matter is disposed of. Our issue or concern is that if at all it is not disposed of, the Chief Justice is going for the retirement soon. So if at all he retires before this matter is being disposed of, it might bring us to the second reconstitution of this matter, and that will be the 5th time it's being heard. So I don't know how we can call that, but for me it's like a double jeopardy in a double jeopardy, because it was heard in 2021, it was reconstituted just because of the uncertainties like the loss of Justice Opio Aweri. So it is why we went back to the council. The reason as to why we went back to the council, Richard Omongole and company advocate, was that after writing to the Supreme Court, we never got a response from the Supreme Court, specifically the Chief Justice, which brought a gross insensitivity in this. So we were like, let's go back to the lawyer. We see the way forward. That's when we requested, as a family, for him to engage Uganda Law Society to see whether they can add on their voice to our voice to see that this matter is being disposed of. So the reason as to why we are here, we are requesting the Law Society with the management of Radical New Bar to see that you add on your voice, whether through the statement or any instrument that you can use to see that you intervene in this matter to see that it's being disposed of before the retirement of Chief Justice. So that's our prayer to the Uganda Law Society.
So, greetings to entire leadership of Law Society. We are here. I'm going to address you in a Luganda version. Basically, ensonga eyatuleeta oba eyatuviiriddeko okutuuka wano ku Law Society, tuzze twemulugunya wano nawali basically nga tusuubira nti for up to now nti matter ejja kuba disposed of appeal ya Mr. Kazinda, naye nga family twatuula mu kunyolwa mu kunyigirizibwa ne tugamba nti ebbanga lye tumaze nga tusirise okuva appeal eyo lwe yawulirwa, katuveeyo tulabe nga tunoonya engeri gye twerwanako. Naye nga obutadda nnyo mabega twawandiikira kanso waffe, kanso Omongole Richard, n'awandiikayo ebbaluwa ku Supreme Court ewa Sijje, bw'amala then n'omusibe yennyini ayita mu kunyigirizibwa Geoffrey Kazinda, naye kye yakola n'awandiika ebbaluwa mu budde bwe bumu. Kati kitutte piriyodi ya mwezi mulamba okuva ebbaluwa ezo lwe zaagendayo, naye twajja ne twengejinga kanso waffe, kanso Omongole, ne tumubuuza oba Supreme Court yamuddamu ku nsonga yaffe, kiki ekiriyo. Kanso n'atugamba tafunanga kuddibwamu kwonna. So kye twakola ne tuddamu ne tutuulanga family nene nnyo, n'abalala tebali wano, mulimu ab'emikwano abali concerned ne family abooluganda basisita baani, ne bagamba no, tuddemu twengejinga kanso atuyambe tukole petition tugitwale mu Law Society tupresentingeyo ensonga eyo, kuba Law Society tugirabye ng'eyamba abantu bangi okulaba nga bafuna justice. So ne tusalawo tugatte eddoboozi eryawamu nga family, our council, then tulabe nti bwe tunaaba tufunye eddoboozi okuva ku Law Society oba kisobola okutuyamba okulaba nti omwami ono afuna justice oba ensonga ye etuuka an end, kuba essaawa eno we twogerera amaze emyaka 13 mu kkomera ng'omuntu, naye ebbanga eryo lyonna lyabaddeyo ng'asaavinga appeals zonna ezisinga ng'omuntu aziwangudde. Appeal 2 kwe kuli petition gye yawangula eyamuta 2020, kuliko application endala 16 eyo yajja 2020, judgment n'efuluma 2024, eyo nayo ng'emudikire yalinga yamuta, naye neetusaba nti musooke mulinde judgment eno ya Supreme Court ng'efulumye yejja okubawa ekisembayo. Naye okuva judgment ya Constitutional Court lwe yafuluma 16th June 2024 kituta omwaka mulamba, naye nga tuli mu kulinda tulabe nti within that period Supreme Court eneevaayo n'etuwa ensala yaayo. So tugenze okulaba nga mu kuteekawo obugumiikirizo obw'amaanyi, musajja oli tumulaba musajja mulwadde, ne tusalawo twekubira enduulu nga family eri Law Society, tulabe beesobola okugatta eddoboozi okulaba nti Mr. Kazinda afuna justice. Mwebale nnyo, mwebalire ddala.
Thank you very much. We would like to welcome the lawyer who is going to shed more light for further understanding of the technicalities that have wrecked this matter so that we can share our views on the same. So we would like to have her presence, Mr. Simwe Jemima, who is going to take us through the next short session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Mwesigwa Jemima. In this case, my client is Kazinda Geoffrey, who has particularly, in this case, expressed his concerns about the delayed justice he's facing and uncertainties of his rallies. I don't know, I may mix in because I've observed my audience, I may mix Luganda and English. Our client has faced a long trail of prosecutions, which started around 2012-2013, with the DPP prosecuting him in the High Court Anti-Corruption Division. Pursuant to those prosecutions, the High Court Anti-Corruption convicted him, but our client instituted a constitutional appeal in the Constitution Court, which declared our client to be discharged of all charges. That is in 2020. That was Constitutional Appeal number 30 of 2020. He discharged our client of all the offenses that he had been convicted with, and also ordered that all further prosecutions of the similar offenses be discharged or be stayed. Now, pursuant to that order, to such orders, it is understandable in the legal fraternity that the AG or the DPP would free our client, release him, and so that he's free from all charges. Instead, the AG went ahead and instituted a suit in the Supreme Court, which essentially was seeking to stay the orders of the Constitutional Court. In that application, that was application number 27 of 2020, in that application, the Supreme Court, even with the knowledge of the irregularities that were happening, and also taking note that there was no valid appeal in the Supreme Court, went ahead and stayed the orders of the Constitutional Court. Now, what are the questions that our client is asking? Our client has been in prison since 2020, when that stay was granted, without any pending charges or offenses instituted against him. He's unaware of which offenses he's charged with, also which sentences he's serving. So in such circumstances, with also the AG securing a stay of execution, which tends to benefit the AG, and also secures his position of staying still and not prosecuting the appeal, which at the time of making that application of stay of execution, that appeal was not existing. So the AG sits behind, lets our client Geoffrey Kazinda to be in prison without any existing charges against him, without any existing sentences against him, but he sits behind and lets the court do its, let the appeal stay in court without any prosecution, and let the client, Geoffrey Kazinda, rot in prison. Our question is, as today's topic is, where is the judicial accountability? Which question we tend to put to the justices of the Supreme Court. 5 to 6 years, our client is in prison without knowledge of what is, of which offenses he's serving, which sentences, and when is he ever going to be released. If in any case there is any end to litigation, when is this appeal going, Constitutional Appeal number 5 of 2020, going to be determined? Peter Rubura talked about the cause list in 2020. Our client Geoffrey Kazinda's matter was cause listed with other matters of Hassan Basajabalaba Kabaziruka on the same cause list. This year, we've seen 2 of those matters being done away with. Our client's matter is still pending. And then our clients are also questioning, with the Chief Justice soon retiring, and the matter facing a possibility of being reconstituted, which fate it had in 2021. When is Geoffrey Kazinda ever going to know which crimes he's facing? When is the judiciary or the Supreme Court, which is the high court, the highest court in this country, when is the court ever going to come out and declare a decision that is guilty or is convicted of all the crimes he's being charged of, or not? It is the law, and it's the law of this country that every person charged with an offense should know. You're either in prison or not. You're either sentenced to a 5-year sentence or 10-year, or you're out of prison. With the Constitution, with the decision of the Constitutional Appeal, our court being valid, and in this case it's still standing, let court go ahead and make a decision, the Supreme Court make a decision in this matter, and our client is willing to face any decision that comes out of the court. Then, I think it has been the norm of the judiciary that justice delayed is justice denied. Let court, the highest court of this country, adhere to that norm, that in any case, if our client faces 5 to 6 years of non-determination of his fate, then that justice has been denied. In this case, our client is brought to Law Society, which is under the leadership of Mr. Semakadde, so that Law Society, in connection with our law firm, Omongola and Company Advocates, can work together to see that our client, Geoffrey Kazinda, gets justice in this matter. There is a final determination of the matter, or that the AG is compelled to prosecute his appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jemima. Quite absurd, that story. Not the best that a relative or friend or anyone wants to hear, because it's the very fabric of justice, which of course we are all looking up to as the courts of law have always presented themselves. It's absurd that such a matter can still be unheard for over 5 to 6 years. Ms. Jemima, we stand with you. The Uganda Law Society, of course, under the able leadership of Isaac K. Semakadde, commits to, identify with you, and we shall obviously respond to your letter, and with the guidance of the council, get in touch with Omongole and Company Advocates to address that issue and see how it will go by. Judicial accountability is one of our biggest cries as the Uganda Law Society, and it is the time that we want to use to, of course, bring closer justice to the people. This is a very vulnerable family that, of course, is missing the loved one, and in light of what has just been shared, that there was a stay and yet the individual remains in custody without any existing charges and or sentences, leaves a lot to be desired. We might not necessarily delve into the nitty-gritty and the details of the matter, because as we've all gotten to know, it is within the realms of court. We shall respectfully get in touch with the family as well as the law firm in order to have a few discussions and see how to enable access to justice as our mandate says, so as to have the family get back in touch with their loved one. Thank you so much. We shall be having questions and answers over time, but in the meantime, we would like to, if it's well, delve into the third segment. We have received that petition, and obviously it has to be a matter tabled to the governing council. We, for a very split moment, had the vice president online, and he's aware of this petition. The president himself is aware of this petition. It was signed on the 4th day of November, and would like to know whether would like to help the family to access the said justice. But before we go to the next segment, there is a question from Susan Mwanje. We are crying about case backlog in the lower courts, but it is sad that Supreme Court is also dragging on cases, yet it has a few cases to hear. Thank you, Uganda Law Society, for this case to light. It's a statement. Thank you so much, Ms. Susan Mwanje, for reaching out. We appreciate the opportunity to have to deal with us directly, because we are here to help the voiceless. And Sam Mutoro says, we have seen public pressure making the court issue judgments. court had sat on the Kabaziguruka case or judgment for years, but the advocacy around the issue forced court to give us a judgment in January. Kazinda's family should keep pushing. These are encouraging statements just for you to know you are not alone, and it's always easier when your voice is heard, and these are the platforms that we use to try to bring justice closer to the people. And finally, as we move into the third segment of the day, TechFest, introducing legal tech dialogues. Finally, as we look into the future where law meets technology, and the TechFest, which we had an inaugural session in August, on the 15th and 16th of August this year. We had a lot of thought-provoking ideas shared, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of legal jargon and legal technology, and very many things were done and shared. As we introduce Legal Tech Dialogues initiative, we want to bring forth the continuation of TechFest. We said we're not going to stop at celebrating the TechFest festival. We're going to follow it up, and clearly, as you will tell, we've had a lot of action. After August, we had an MOU signed with Utamu University that was opening opportunities and doors for lawyers and the general public into digital skilling, which is something ongoing for which we shall always be bringing reports. At some time we shall have that opportunity. We have as well have had legal tech dialogues being run by the next speaker, who also picked from there. He's a very, very perpendicular individual, and we are going to hear a lot of innovation. We are encouraging lawyers to delve into technology because the world is going techie, and it's only right that lawyers get in that line so that we're able to have our work done easier. Because of course, Legal Tech Dialogues initiative introduces a powerful idea, the digital innovation that can open up pathways to access to justice, legal education, and professional efficiency. Of course, we all know that the Uganda Revenue Authority has begun rolling out its manner of filings, which have now become among its other institutions and government institutions, and that there's been virtual hearings nowadays in the courts of law, and client service automation. ECMIS filing has been ongoing, and technology is no longer a distant concept. We are here to bring technology closer to the law in order to make our work easier. Today, we are going to be graced by one of our very own, who is a friend of ours and has worked with us very closely and has continued to work with us. If you follow, he will share with us details of his runnings here and there. But as we speak, he is the founding and managing partner of Diamond Advocates, a partner firm with one global, unified international firm in law, tax, audit, accounting, and business advisory in the UK and the USA, among other countries. He is a tech lawyer and co-founder of Lex Tech AI Company Limited, a company behind LexChat, an AI research assistant for lawyers. He is a respected legal tech and AI advisor, having worked with local and international labs, including Makerere AI Health Lab, and serves on the government of Uganda Ministry of Health Committee shaping AI in health policy. He's a member of the UK Chartered Institute of Arbitrators and holds a Bachelor of Laws degree from Makerere University, a master's in institutional leadership and management, and has done several certificates in tech, including a certificate in computer science and AI for lawyers at Harvard Law School. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Mr. Tony Kire Galandi. You're most welcome, please.
Thank you very much, Eddie, for that very kind and yet flattering introduction.
I'm not sure whether what you all said is very true. But that said, ladies and gentlemen, I prefer to be simply introduced as Galandi Tonechire. I am very delighted once again to be here as the inaugural chairperson for the Tech Festival. Journalists will tell you that bad news sell more than good news. But I come here with the good news. I want first of all to thank the President, Uganda Law Society, Isaac Kimeze Semakadde, Senior Counsel, for the opportunity he gave me to spearhead one of the pillars of his campaign, that is digital transformation. As you well know, we had a very successful tech festival, the first of its kind, and the inaugural one for Uganda Law Society. And that was a game changer. And out of that, I felt that the TechFest shouldn't only be a conference. If we are going to have a journey that is going to bring on board everybody to this digital journey, then we must have a movement. Because the movement does not stop until you have reached the end of the journey. And that is how I came up with the idea of Legotech Dialogues. We have piloted it. Our very, very first podcast ran 5 weeks ago. And our inaugural guests were the Judicial Service Commission nominees who turned up for a debate. The conversation rotated around what is the next commissioner supposed to do as a way of embracing technology to resolve backlog. You realize all the lamentations which we have just been listening to rotate around one thing: backlog. You are hearing we have over 150,000 cases unattended to. We are hearing that when you are remanded for 2 years without facing trial, you celebrate because that's the baseline. It has become a norm that if you have been incarcerated for 2 years, that's the basic. And I think as lawyers, as a society, it's not in our culture to sit back and look on. And that's where the movement we are calling Legotech Dialogues comes in. Some of us believe that the digitalization of the legal processes is going to play a pivotal role in resolving some of these challenges that we are talking about. In other jurisdictions, like across in Kenya, you realize that the volume of backlog is less than a quarter of what we are struggling with, and it's because they have been able to embrace this technology. Across in Kenya, you realize that many a time now, the lawyer does not need to appear in court in person. The witnesses do not need to appear in court. Everybody can be able to attend court virtually. I want to commend the judiciary for the steps it has taken so far. It would be very un-Christian of me not to acknowledge that there have been steps. We realize there is ECMIS. Now we can do filing. But we believe that with a lot of digital sensitization, which can be done through legal tech dialogues, a lot more could be done. What's the purpose of us filing? And then the cases are not able to be heard. What's the purpose of us filing? But then the allocation of cases is done manually. So we believe through this movement we are calling legal tech dialogues, we should be able to influence policy. We should be able to influence not only the judiciary, but also the institutions. Last week, but one, I hosted the deans of laws of law schools in Uganda. And we had a turn-up of 10 of them, Makerere University, UCU, KIU, King Caesar, among others. And the discussion rotated, number one, we do not have an enabling policy for digital education in the law schools. You may want to learn that law schools train lawyers based on curriculums that have been approved by the Law Council and National Council for Higher Education. What that means is that if you're going to introduce something new, the Law Council must be in the know, and National Council for Higher Education must be in the know. And there must be an enabling policy to that effect. The question is, who is going to spearhead that conversation if we don't? So, ladies and gentlemen, we feel that the piloting has worked well, and it's therefore my duty to encourage all of us to support this journey. It's an initiative currently supported by the firm I run. We have physical discussions at Protea every Thursday, 7 p.m. We run these podcasts on our X Spaces. That is at L Tech Dialogues. L is capital, the rest are small. But it also runs on my personal handle, X handle, that is at Tone Kire. We feel and believe that just like the gospel of Jesus Christ, if we continue preaching, we'll get more converted. And we are not yet going to stop until we are fully and all converted. This movement is not only about the Radical New Bar. This movement is about that young lady in Nakapiriprit, that old woman in Amuria who has rotated in court for 20 times, and his or her case file has been misplaced, and that's the reason he has to keep coming. This movement is about my brethren here who are having an inmate who has been incarcerated for 13 years because his matter has not been heard by the Supreme Court. This movement is about that brother and sister of yours who is in law school, still studying a curriculum of 1990 to prepare himself for a matter of 2026. It's about that brother or sister of yours who is in UCU, who is in Makerere, learning how to manually file court documents, because that's what the curriculum talks about in the civil procedure rules, and yet the practice is that we are now having ICMIS. So there is need for all of us to have the movement running. Let us join in these conversations. We encourage that when you approach to come and share your expertise in whatever area, please do. We are also starting what we are calling the low-tech boot camp. And the low-tech boot camp will be taking place in the third week of March, where we'll be able to invite, we intend to work with Uganda Law Society, so that we have a day where people come not for conferences, but this time round to interact and learn from each other the practical skills and tools of using Lego tools. Because as of today, everybody is running his tool. Another one is using ChatGPT with all its challenges. One is running Gemini. One is running Grok. One is running LexisNexis for those who are a little bit advanced. But the question is, when will this fracas stop? Because all these tools we are using are not local tools, and they have their challenges. They are quoting cases that do not exist. Yeah? They are hallucinating. Hallucinating is where a computer, you ask it something, artificial intelligence asks it something, it doesn't know, so it looks around and gives you whatever it finds, similar to what you're asking. So we want to take this opportunity to also officially notify that we will be starting a boot camp, which will be running serially. We hope to invite many of you to share with us different expertise, and also invite technocrats from different areas. We hope to bring on board universities like UTAM, among others, so that their basic skills that we should be able to adopt and learn without necessarily going back to school if you don't want to. Ladies and gentlemen, we also want to remind you that as the year comes to an end, we are going to be starting organizing for the next TechFest. And trust me, it is going to be bigger and better. Last month, I was in the UK as a panelist for one of the biggest conferences. That's the Lego Geek Conference in London. And what surprised me is how we, the Africans, are on the back end. It's so surprising that a conference that has over 3,000 participants, 3,000 participants, there were 2 Africans, myself from Uganda, who was a panelist, and some other guy from South Africa, who was actually white anyway, in color, but African by country. So I think there is need for us as a people to get interested in this conversation, because the world is moving at a supersonic speed, and unless we continue having this movement, we are going to still remain behind. As I speak right now, LexisNexis, Thomson Reuters, is collecting a lot of data from here. They have already sponsored and enabled the GDPR rules for all European countries. What does that mean? That for you, if you are going to deal with data, for a person who has come from Kenya to here, you are at crossroads, because you do not know whether to use the national data protection laws of Uganda, because this is a Kenyan anyway, or to use the national data protection laws of Kenya. The other jurisdiction has moved on because they are having a uniform law. The GDPR rules, all you need is a certificate to be a data collector. Now, these are things, in my honest opinion, that we as lawyers need to get interested in these conversations here. We are having a problem of regulation, but as lawyers, we seem to be laid back. we are still stuck on arguing land matters. The other time I was hosting the Commission on Land Registration, the conversation was blockchain. So if we are busy still concentrating on discussing land matters, what's going to happen when they bring blockchain and there is no, it's an open ledger? I mean, you can't forge a title, because the conversations that we are having in courts today are, a forged title, a forged transfer, a title superimposed on another title. So what is going to happen tomorrow when all that shit is gone? That you are not going to have issues of a title sitting on a title. That the conversation you are going to be having is going to be a conversation of how did AD transfer my title using a passkey. Because when blockchain comes in, it will be like transferring a car today. URA uses the same systems, blockchain. You do not need a lawyer to be around to effect a transfer. All you need is that a passkey will be sent on your email and you confirm, and the car logbook will be transferred. So I think we need to position ourselves, and there is no way we are going to do that unless we have intentioned ourselves to position ourselves in tech. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this honor to officially welcome all of you to Legitech Dialogues as Uganda Law Society, and also pray and request that as and when requested and called upon to join us, please kindly join us every Thursday, Protea Hotel. On a good day, we provide a little bit of water. We're supposed to provide wine. Eddie said that would be too much. So we do a bit of water, and please, if you can join in physically on days, we will definitely notify you when we have slots for physical. Please join in. I want to wind up by thanking Uganda Law Society for giving me the opportunity to spearhead this conversation. I also want to pass on my sincere thanks, specifically to the President, for giving me a platform to spearhead the digital journey. We are also having conversations at a broader scale to see that we are able to spearhead this conversation at an African level. Because this is not only a Uganda problem, it's an Africa problem. So we hope that in the near future we are in talks with a number of high-end Africa countries that I may not mention for confidentiality purposes now, to see if we can be able to have an AI in Law Summit, Africa AI in Law Summit, where we intend to bring together all the policymakers so that we have a conversation on enabling law across African countries, so that we have the same law that is governing data in Africa. The reason why today you are having unenforceable decisions across African countries is because every country is having its own law, and what Meta and TikTok and the rest are doing is ignore. Many of you are aware that in Kenya, the Kenya National Data Protection Office resolved a complaint of moderators who sued Meta, and it awarded $9.3 against Meta, which is Facebook. What has been done? Nothing. In Nigeria, the Nigeria National Data Protection Office resolved a complaint where they sued TikTok for picking data of under 18 children videos without their consent or the consent of the parents anyway, and they awarded $92,000. What was done? Nothing. Not long ago, here in Uganda, we had a complaint against Google in the Data Protection Office. Yeah? And the Data Protection Office, in its wisdom, made a ruling against Google. It never awarded the costs. But you know what? The complainant can't even enforce that in the high courts of Uganda. Why? Because we do not have an enabling law. So my opinion is that let us have these conversations not only at national level, but at Africa level. We are hoping that if this conversation continues, we should be able to, to define Africa conversations. Thank you, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to the team. I'm always very grateful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Our most perpendicular inaugural TechFest chairperson who hit us by storm and hasn't stopped to hit us. He is very, very much of a darling to us. We appreciate all that he shares with us. We would like to pick up from what he said. The movement doesn't stop until the end of the journey, and the world is moving at a supersonic speed. It is about time for us to position ourselves in the legal tech field so as not to be left behind. If among 3,000 participants in the UK, we have only 2 Africans, of which the other is white, but only African by country. He also mentions about the legal tech dialogues that are very, very much on. Every Thursday at 7, we are all encouraged to participate. There is a question that has come from one of the members in regard to that discussion, but I think the most important thing that we can pick from Mr. Chairman TechFest is it's about time to align ourselves because the world is fast changing. There's a lot of techie and technological development going on, and we are always very, very happy to move with those that are moving. Chairman, thank you so much for leading the discussions. We thank you so much. The 150 cases that are in backlog is very shambolic and a shame to the Ugandan judiciary, but you come with solutions. And the judiciary recently, while we were commemorating the Rule of Law Week, opened itself to dialogue. As we remember, the Attorney General was here, Honorable Chiyowa Chiwanuka, who welcomed dialogue. We intend to move on using that statement to look out for the judiciary and other stakeholders to address these issues. So the aspect of no policy for digital education is a very big issue in law schools, because now we can no longer hide away from technology. And if our students in the universities are studying manually, or rather learning how to file manually, it leaves a lot to be desired. Mr. Galandi and the Uganda Law Society are here to expose the students and as well train them, as shall be noticed, because we also operate in the different lower institutions of organization of education, and as the rule of law departments, rather rule of law clubs in the universities. We have also taken note of the legal tech boot camp that you have ably advertised. We shall of course charge you later for using this opportunity, but since we are working with the Uganda Law Society, it is a brother and sister in arms together. We would like to take the opportunity to announce it, of course, alongside other announcements that are going to come. This one is going to be for March 2026, the first week. We shall have further information about what is going to take place and ways in which to participate. We are also aware of the legal tech discussions that happen at Protea 7. Would like to repeat that so that it is very clear, as well as on online spaces, on X especially, using the handles legal tech dialogues. Yes, we shall continue to market that. You can follow us on our X handle in order to get to know a lot more of that. We don't want to take it for granted, of course, because you highlight some facts that there are no enabling laws. The matters that you have spoken about in Kenya and in Uganda is just too much to take, because after somebody has hustled and bustled to get a judgment, it's only right that the judgment is enforceable. So if it's not enforceable, then it leaves a lot to be desired from the lawyers. It's a clarion call, of course, for the lawyers, under the support of the Uganda Law Society, of course, in conjunction with Mr. Galandi, to assist and aid in regard to espousing technology, which we still want to consider as a very, very noble and timely intervention in as far as development is concerned. Mr. Tony, thank you so much. We have a question for you from Julius JJ. Thank you so much, Tony, rather Julius, for reaching out to us. He is asking, he says, first and foremost, great initiative, Council Galandi. Are the physical discussions at Protea open for the public to attend, or can we only join online? I think you answered that, but you can as well give more information. But as you give back to that, you can as well take the second question from Mr. Serwada Chris. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. Thank you, Council. These are the innovations we love to see. How can we sign up for the boot camp? Is it open to law students? Those are the two questions. I hope they're clear. You could activate the microphone before you answer them as we get into the final stages of our discussion for the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julius. The tech dialogues open to the public. The answer is it is hybrid. On days where we have topical discussions that are very provocative, and where we feel we need a direct intervention of participants, we post and invite you to attend. We normally don't have very many slots because the hall normally accommodates around 100 people, and when we are going to have that, we make sure we post on our handles. Just keep following our handles. That is at Tone Kire. Tone is capital T, then Tone Kire, the rest are small letters. Tone Kire on Twitter, or I mean X, and at L is capital Tech Dialogues, both on Twitter and YouTube. We normally post, but also on my LinkedIn account, we normally post. The next question is from Chris. The Tech Law Bootcamp. The Tech Law Bootcamp will be open both to students and senior lawyers and junior lawyers. We intend to have what we call as reverse mentorship. My colleague here, Eddie, is a champion of rule of law and he rarely engages with gadgets. But then you have that student in year 3, year 4 from Makerere, from KIU, from Victoria, whatever, who is tech savvy with some of these gadgets. Yes. We want to be able to have reverse mentorship so that this time around the young ones are drumming and the elders are dancing. Yes. So, and we will also intend to have professionals, and also we are in signing up with a number of celebrated professionals across the globe who are willing to do this out of voluntary, as a way of giving back, to come and be able to attend and train in that 1 or 2 day boot camp. More information will be shared both on the official page of my backers, that is Uganda Law Society, and also on our official page on the date and the time, but it's going to be in March. So far, for the confirmations we have got of people who are willing to come through from some of these other areas. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Julius. And thank you very much, moderator. I hope I've answered well.
Yes, very loud and clear. Thank you so much, Chris and Julius. We are very grateful. We are coming to the close of today's session. We would like to thank you. And as we conclude, we would like to reiterate that the Radical New Bar is here to stand with members of the public and the lawyers, the members, of course, of the bar. We are so grateful that you continue to follow us. And of course, the law, we continue to say that the law must be alive and courageous and responsive to the needs of the people. And that is the purpose of the Radical New Bar, whether it is in defending electoral injustice, demanding accountability, or embracing innovation. Just as today's topics have been, we have tackled each and all of them. And for that matter, we would like to reiterate our intention to lead by example, and we call upon members so that we can move within that spirit of partnership, vigilance, and purpose-driven intentionality, such that justice is not only spoken but seen to be promised and delivered upon. So on behalf, of course, of the Governing Council and on behalf of the Secretariat, would like to take the opportunity to thank you all so much for the time we have spent together from 11 a.m. and would like to use the opportunity to bless you. Meanwhile, as we wind, the last statements for the day are going to be announcements that we have been passing over time for the upcoming events. We have the ULS Sports Gala in partnership with LASPNet, who were here recently, 3 weeks ago, advertising and trying to make mention of that activity, which was dubbed Run for Justice, towards the construction of the Legal Aid House. The function is going to take place on the 29th day of November 2025, and the venue for the set-off is going to be at Law Development Center, Kagugube Road, and the gala will start with the Access to Justice Run, and kits are available at the ULS House, going for 25,000 shillings ordinary kit and 35,000 shillings the platinum kit. Then the other announcement is the 30th East Africa Law Society Annual Conference and General Meeting, scheduled to take place in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on between the 26th day of November to the 29th day of November 2025. We are all encouraged to get in touch with the Members Affairs Department, Members Affairs and Professional Development, in order to learn or appreciate how to make your payments and get booked in to attend that very, very gigantic function and conference where we shall be meeting various lawyers from other jurisdictions and sharing experiences. Of course, finally is the clarion call for members following the statement that was written by the Uganda Law Society for lawyers and pro bono lawyers, especially to offer their services, as has been called in the previous segments of discussion, to come and aid in the looking out for electoral justice. We are available. I am the individual whose number is on the statement, Robert Benonjurua, 0782-969-239, in charge of litigation. Kindly reach out. We have so far received a call from around 300 lawyers, and we are continuing to receive lawyers. It doesn't matter where you are, because as we had, the detainees or the individuals and supporters have been redistributed from just Mbarara to various parts of the country. So it doesn't matter where you are. We shall intend to be having continual meetings. Like we said, we are also waiting to get credible information from the NUP, because we are in touch with them, such that we can know where to deploy our pro bono advocates in as far as their services are concerned. Kindly reach out to myself or the Uganda Law Society, or wherever you are, especially those that are up country in the different regions. We have ULS regional representatives that sit on the council, and would like for you to feel free, reach out to them, or anyone that you know works with the Uganda Law Society, in order to ease our aspect and fight for the rule of law. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to have had to be the moderator for the day, and would like to pray that God bless you till we meet again next Thursday. Be healthy and continue to support the Radical New Bar and the Uganda Law Society to offer its mandate of keeping the rule of law astute, as well as supporting the members of the public. For God and my country, thank you.